Nova Kooks.
Hello. We need just a few moments of your time.
It's new era, man. This is new era Kooks.
Welcome to the future. Snappers.
See, that's how you do it, Josh.
Yeah.
That's like 2 minutes compared to your half hour.
That's what happens when you don't achieve your goal.
It's like,
No, I didn't. Yep, nothing to say. Bummer of the summer.
The bummer of the summer.
yeah.
Bummer of the summer.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
Welcome, listener. You're listening to Nova Kooks. We are four East Coast surfers that don't take ourselves too seriously when it comes to surfing or other things. Hence our name, the Nova Kooks. In this podcast, you will hear us talk about surfing on the East Coast of Canada and hear some funny stories from our inexperience along the way. This podcast isn't just a surf podcast. In fact, it's more of a bi-weekly discussion of all the things that we are interested in. Our favorite podcasts are those that make you feel like you are hanging out with friends. So enjoy hanging out with us as we explore personal growth, adventure, and the world around us, including pop culture and other topics. While our common interest is surfing, we will of course discuss it. But like surfing, sometimes it gets weird. Sometimes it's moderately comforting. So let's get weird. Today's episode is a welcome back episode. It's been nearly 4 months since we've recorded an episode together, and this is the first time we've been in a room together since then as well. In this episode, we discuss some of our summer adventures, not just surfing, but other fun that we've gotten up to. We will also reflect on our goals from last season and how they went, whether we bailed on them, had success, or pivoted the goal due to unforeseen circumstances. We have included a new segment where we give and discuss a surf tip. We also will talk about the future goals of the Nova Kooks, and of course, we will get a final question from Charles. Before we begin, I am Jared, and I'll be your host. I'm seated with Charles, Josh, and David. Hey guys.
Salutations.
Hello.
To start off today...
Hi.
Oh!
Toot toot.
He's up.
There he is. He fell asleep on
I have
the fire.
several questions I want you to consider.
To start off today, I have a warm-up question, and it's an easy one so that we can get back into this. The question is, what is your cell phone home screen and wallpaper? Josh.
This is the first time I could answer that question with two answers, because normally I set them both the same.
Mm-hmm.
But my real answer is pretty boring. It is a breakdown of eating.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
So it's like based on the size of your hand. So a palm of protein, a fist of vegetables, a handful of carbs, and thumbs of fat.
So is this is a screenshot of your meal plan?
Well, it's what I follow. So for protein, for example, I try to get 5 palms per day. Vegetables, 6 to 8 fists. Yeah.
Excellent. And what's your wallpaper?
My wallpaper is this dynamic sort of circly thing.
So it's like art.
It looks like a bunch of balloons. There it is.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
very cool.
Yeah.
it's like it's your birthday.
It brings me joy. My birthday is close.
It is close.
I've got a question. Do you find having that meal reminder helpful? Do you refer to it often, or?
I do, actually.
Sweet.
I don't necessarily, I'm not checking the boxes, but if lunchtime comes, I'll be like, oh yeah, okay, 1, 2, yeah, I got that. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, I got that.
Keeps it at the forefront.
And then I notice now, if I have a dip in energy or whatnot, I can count them up. I'll be like, oh, no wonder.
That's why.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you had no carbs or whatever.
Right.
So it's there because it's a reminder as an exercise to like move in a positive direction.
Very good.
Like osmosis.
Yeah.
All right. I'll go next. My answer is
Charles.
very boring. I work in technology, but for some reason I did not realize that this was possible to set a screen image on your phone. So maybe there's something interesting I can add in there. And for my background, I just have the default gray bubbles, which I thought was my image on the phone, but now I know I can add something in there. So it's a fun project for myself. Thank you.
Let's welcome Charles to 2022.
That's awesome. You work in technology. That's great. David.
Well, very, very pragmatic. The lock screen is my vaccination record.
Passport?
Passport, if you will. Yeah, thank you.
That's what-
And it's not so practical these days, but back in the day, it was nice to just flip your phone up. It would pop up so I could go into establishments who asked for it. And the lock, or whatever it is, the wallpaper, we'll call it, is a picture of my wife and I in Dominican Republic. It's just a nice colors of the sky, the ocean, the sand, and palm trees. And
Is that from March break?
that would be from March break. So, yeah, it was just a good picture and reminds me of warmer times.
Awesome.
Do you all keep a passcode on your phone?
I do, yeah.
I do.
I do because I want my daughter to not go into my phone.
Yeah.
I didn't always, and then I was like, oh, this is good practice. To those out there who don't have a passcode, all fine.
Fix it.
But I'd suggest protecting your cell phone.
Yeah. For my home screen, I actually have a picture of a lake, and it's the lake at our friend Nick's hunting cabin. I think like 2 years ago, we went out for a hike around
Great
Taylor
Lake.
Head, and then in the middle of Nova Scotia, kind of right in the center, in the woods, in the middle of nowhere, we went to our friend Nick's father's hunting cabin, and it had this beautiful lake, and it's just like this, you feel like you're in this untouched land, and it was so quiet, and we were there, and the sun was going down, and it's a very pretty picture. And
Yeah, that's nice.
I just
the one peeking through the trees. Yeah.
yeah, I just remember feeling really good in that moment. It was kind of the end of lockdown summer.
Well, yeah, that was the first time we could hang where we weren't locked down, so it was great. Yeah.
So it was like kind of the first time I was being adventurous and being like staying in a cabin with friends. And yeah, I felt since COVID, yeah, it felt good. And we ate a lot of food that night.
You know what? As wonderful as that picture is, the memory of how I felt from how much we ate.
Well, we had like a late lunch after the hike.
You and I each
Fish and
had
chips or
fish and
something.
chips, and then
We had meat on meat for supper. Nick bought all these steaks, and I had sausages.
and I like
we had
prepped like
mashed
pounds
potatoes.
of vegetables and potatoes.
What lake is it? Do you know the name of the lake?
I don't remember the name of the lake.
It's literally off of a logging road.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
I
it's
would
like
never, never find that again without
Gotcha.
Nick.
like it's not a lake that they've sold lots on. Like
Right.
it's literally a shack in the woods. on
Cool.
a lake.
They know when to start walking through the path and to park on the logging road by like a formation of rocks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And
Cool.
I said a shack. It's not a shack, but I don't want to.
It's a
offend
hunting
anyone.
cabin,
It's
yeah.
a hunting cabin.
It's pretty cool. Lots of Coleman lanterns ready to go, and
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, and the other ones. I have one up there. The oil lamps.
the old
ones.
oil lamps. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, and they have like a big tin of fuel. It's
So
pretty
like
cool.
off-grid-ish?
Very.
Totally off-grid?
Oh yeah, the outhouse. Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah. And my, sorry, and just to move on, my wallpaper is the first time my daughter stood up on a surfboard. My wife was right in the water, like pretty deep, and it was back in the day when I used to push Maddie into the
Nice.
yeah. So it's a pretty good, proud dad moment.
Good question. I like that.
Yeah.
Great question.
Next.
Next, please.
For the main part of this episode, I'm going to sort of do it like a round table where we go around the room doing a check-in. To begin though, a routine for my family at dinner time is to always give 2 apples, being 2 good things that happened in your day, and to give 1 onion, which is like a not so good thing that happened in your day. So in a similar spirit, give me 2 apples and 1 onion about your summer, or since we've met up. And we'll kind of keep it in the same order: Josh, Charles, David, and then myself. Josh.
2 apples. I discovered a delightful breakfast sandwich at the what's that place called in Lawrencetown? McDonald House, or what's it called?
Yeah, Lawrencetown. Is it Lawrencetown Beach Cafe?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. In the
Yeah.
tea house there.
Highly recommend.
Yeah.
Add an egg for $1.
Hello.
yeah,
Meets all the things on my phone home screen.
He took me. This is
I did.
legit
I did.
information.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was an apple. or a breakfast sandwich. And then, I don't know, I had a pretty calm summer. Like there was no like major sort of events, but I would say that is like one big apple. And then an onion is probably having to fix my truck when I don't want to.
Yeah.
Which has happened a couple times. But yeah, no, it was a good summer.
I'm so proud of you for keeping that truck, though. It's inspiring.
It's a labor of love.
Charles, what about you? 2 apples and an onion.
Sure. So my apples, in June, I would have gone to Toronto, which was my first trip since COVID, to see one of my favorite bands. Superchunk was playing up there. It was a fantastic show. I got to eat some good food while I was away. So that was super fun. And then the other thing this summer would have been, I had some friends, childhood friends that were visiting from Calgary. So we were in Cape Breton for, over a week or so hanging out. So yeah, with them and their family and partners and stuff. So that was a treat. And my onion was, so for Fiona, I was in Cape Breton, which
Hurricane Fiona.
Hurricane Fiona? Yep. I was in Cape Breton, got hit really bad down there, lost power for 4 days, and then made an escape to Dartmouth and took my mom back up here. And got COVID around that time as well. So yeah, that was a bit of a downer, but the summer was awesome.
Yeah. It's COVID. You onion.
Yeah, I would say, and this is a testament to how great the summer was. I mean, I'm going to go onion first just to be that person.
Get it out of the way.
Get it out of the way. Get it out of the way. I did a math course all July, and it was, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. No big deal. Loved it. It was great. But, I just found it kind of made me rush through the 4-day weekend. Like I'd kind of finish up. And then I tried to pack in so much stuff in those 4 days. And again, this isn't the biggest onion of all, but I just found like I was rushing through things and kind of accounting for every moment. And I think I got in my head a little bit and I kind of wore myself out a bit. But again, these aren't big heartaches. And then my 2 apples, although there were many, one would be going to see the Red Hot Chili Peppers in Toronto with a couple of my childhood buddies who also were and are big Red Hot Chili Peppers fans, and spending time with them and cruising around Toronto and hitting that concert, which was phenomenal. And then probably another one is just touring around Nova Scotia, like hitting the Cabot Trail, sitting on some of the most amazing beaches in the world up there and camping and, just doing the Nova Scotia summer thing.
Drinking up the Nova Scotia wilderness.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
For myself, got to do a lifelong dream, and we'll talk about this in an episode coming up very soon. My family and I got to go on our dream vacation to Hawaii. That was a big one. Lots of good surf and pretty fun beach times. And my wife's one of her really good friends lives there, and we got to spend a lot of time with him and his friends, and we really enjoyed that. And the other one was got to spend time in PEI. Every summer we would go and stay at a bunch of cottages with a bunch of friends, and we really we really missed that because of COVID, and this year was the first time we felt comfortable to do that again, and it was really awesome. We got to go, and I got to meet the people at the Rustico Surf Club, which is, who knew you could surf in PEI, and I didn't get to surf, but it's pretty cool because they're like, I don't know, they reminded me of like I don't know how to describe it, like storm chasers or something. Their little club is obsessed, and they have this whole like text thread or something, I assume. Like she was explaining it to me, but when the weather's right, they'll go out and like all meet up, and it just sounds so cool because like the whole community goes, and it's not too big. But yeah, I didn't believe it, but she showed me all these awesome pictures of waves in PEI in Rustico. Pretty neat. North Rustico. And then the onion would have to be after we got back from PEI, my daughter got really sick, too much fun maybe. And unfortunately we had this massive sort of birthday dinner for my mom planned, and my cousin who lives in New Mexico now was going back for the year, and so I won't get to see him or his little kid, and my daughter and his little kid. The cousins get together and get along really well. And yeah, we missed that and missed them because my daughter was super sick. So that was kind of the bummer of the summer, because it was like we were sort of locked down again at home for like 2 weeks. So, okay. Thanks, guys.
Next, please.
So let's get into talking about let's pick it up where we left off from our last episode. We talked about surf goals and personal goals. So let's start with our surf goal. Josh, your surf goal on the podcast, on the last episode, you talked about staying relaxed, not fighting for it. And you were talking about, not fighting while you're paddling out or while you're preparing to catch the wave. And you also said a really nice phrase that I liked, that you wanted to find comfort out there. How did that go?
Well, pretty good, actually. When I had set that goal, my focus was not the paddle out, but actually you would ask me this, what did I mean, the paddle out or the paddle in? Paddle in, paddle out. And I did find relaxation in trying to catch the waves, and relaxing into it. Obviously, I still got caught up with being destroyed every so often, but I found that I was working a lot less to catch waves, and I was working even less to get out there. So I'd say that to say if I achieved my goal or not, I would say yes, but almost on the opposite side, because I wasn't working as hard to get out, and was having fun on the way out. So when I got there, I was ready to wait for my wave. And I was more patient as well. So I kind of relaxed in the process, and then relaxed in what I was waiting for. It wasn't like, I got to catch this one, I got to try. It was more so looking at the wave and being like, oh, the top of that one's cresting weird. No, that's not it, I don't think. And like, yeah, more patience in the process, slowing down.
You found comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Did you feel like you were more like present almost, like in the experience, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I was looking for, because it was like, how you get in that elevated sort of anxious state, and like you're not in it, but you're there. You're like, I'm doing it, and I know I should be. And
yeah,
surfing is awesome. So you're telling yourself all these things.
Right.
It's like I settled down into that more.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And I would say one of the days it really clicked was that day I went to Cherry Hill by myself.
Oh, cool.
That was an awesome surf day. Yeah. It wasn't even big waves, but I had a lot of fun and kind of forgot that I was out there and for how long. I think I surfed an hour and a half straight, which I normally wouldn't do.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Charles, when we last spoke, you were talking about just getting out as much as you could, and you wanted to work on your right and see new spots. You were talking about Duncan, Schooner Pond, and you were also talking about teaching your nephew to surf and taking friends out.
Yep, that's it.
How'd all that go? That was a lot of things that you said.
Actually, I think mission accomplished with most of it. I did like try to get out to the beach as much as possible. And when I did spend quite a bit of time in Cape Breton, so I did some early mornings out at Point Michaud. And just where I live, it's about where my family lives is about an hour and a half away from St. Peter. So it's always like an early morning mission to get out there and get like maximum time, and then kind of have other stuff that I can do with the rest of the day when I head back home. But yeah, it's just got to like say hi to a lot of like cool people out there. And then when you show up super early, you have a whole beach to yourself, which is pretty fun. And I had my nephew out a couple of times, one time at Point Michaud, and it was really exciting to watch him catch his first waves, and just kind of, we've all been there, like that first time when you catch a wave and like how great that feels, right? Like you kind of can't stop smiling. So to share that with him, and then I had my buddy Mike, who was visiting from Calgary, got him out to Point Michaud as well. And he had tried surfing a couple of times, but this is the most success that he had. So he had a really good time, and he's actually started rivers surfing out in Calgary there.
Yeah, you were telling me that.
Awesome. He got a helmet and a board, and is trying that there. And then one thing for me, like I did try to work on my right. I still kind of want to naturally go left, but last spring I would have gotten a 7-foot foam board, which I never really had much of an opportunity to get out on. And with having people out with me and giving them the longboard so they have like more stability and they can kind of catch waves. I was spending more time with the shorter board, and what I found clicked for me was just kind of like getting up on it and kind of getting that stability with it. And I find it's just a really fun board to like take out if it's like, if it's a day, it's not going to be like a perfect day, but there's like, 3-foot waves of like a little something. You can just get in and play in the water. So I really enjoy just popping that in the car and heading out.
Yeah. Foam boards in Nova Scotia, like the fun board size, I find are just like perfect, like for, because you have an opportunity to use it.
Oh
on any type
like
of day.
I was like shocked, like on some days where even with it being like a bit smaller, like I was able to catch stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, Dave, you were saying that you wanted to surf in a new place, and you were interested in Point Michaud because Charles has spoken so highly of it, and you were also curious about, is it Duncan or Donkin? How do you say
it's Schooner Pond in Donkin.
Donkin. Schooner Pond in Donkin. Sorry. Okay. And you were also talking about venturing to the South Shore, hitting up places there, and progressing with your cutbacks. How did all that go?
I would say pretty well. Sadly, still have Point Michaud on my list of places yet to see or go. But
good campground there.
I think
good
that's a good thing. It's a nugget kind of hanging off in the distance.
You can't do it all, Dave.
You can't do everything. You try to fit it all in. I will say that probably had one of my best surf sessions ever on the South Shore.
Wow.
This summer we were camping, my wife and I, and she is totally supportive of the board going on the roof. And anyways, funny enough, we ran into a colleague of hers they're big surfers at Maviette Beach on sort of the Acadian shore, like near Yarmouth, and they're surfers there. And we just happened to run into them on this funny, totally out of the way beach. And their partners were all sup surfing, and it was super small. But I looked at the forecast, and the next day was I was like, this is going to be something. And I sort of bounced a few ideas off some other people who I ran into on the road, and the consensus in the community was tomorrow's going to be the time. So anyways, I was like, I'm waking up at 5, I'm going out. Yep. And anyways, hit this absolute spectacular point break, and it just was absolute peeling. Hit it at the right tide. It was me, a guy from Quebec, and a local guy, and we just traded off like 20-30 second long left point breaks for like, we were out there for 2.5-3 hours. Like,
nice.
and you just were like, I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving. And just my equipment was working right. And like just turns left, right, and center. Like, it was just beautiful. And I know that I had a great time because I got off and there was this couple coming out and they were thinking about surfing. And the girl stopped me. She's like, you look like something amazing. Like, I think it was written all over my face.
You're glowing.
And I was just like, like she kind of stopped me because I think I was, your adrenaline's going. It was just an epic day. But she was like, what happened out there? And I was just like, you guys got to get out there.
Oh, wow.
It was magical.
That's
and they were
awesome.
like, okay, let's go. And I was like, oh, that must have been a good time.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
in that regard, yeah, that was great. But Point Michaud still on the list.
Awesome. And what about your cutbacks?
You know what? I was working on a longer board, so very tricky, but
you just got a longer board, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm getting good at kind of stalling and holding myself up right in the pocket, which not a cutback, but just I've got really comfortable with the board, and I've really been playing with fin placement in the board, really jamming it up towards the front kind of makes it, even a longer board, feel a little bit more skatish, and anyways, a lot more control. And I've just been playing with stuff like that, which has been kind of neat to experiment with.
Like more agile with the fin pushed up?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Big time. And like,
What's your fin box setup? Like, what are your...
it's so I've got
sorry, what size board do you have and what's the fin?
So this is an 8'10".
Okay.
So not quite like a full-on log or anything like that, but it's kind of like it's sort of a performance longboard-ish. It's got more of a round sort of tail, so you can turn it pretty nicely, and so it's got a big skeg on it, and it's got 2 little side bites on the side. But anyways, I've really pushed the big fin up front, and actually the first time I did, I pushed it way up, and it was almost scary how amazing you could turn. Like it really changed it, and I was like, whoa. So I dialed it back a bit, and anyways, just it's amazing hydrodynamically how you can move something a few millimeters.
It's crazy, yeah.
And you would think, I'm not going to feel much, but really totally changes how a board can feel. So
that's interesting.
Fun to play with.
Yeah.
Did you read something, or you're just like, I'm going to jam this forward and see what happens?
Yeah, well, I mean, I always knew it. I always knew further back, more stable, more dry, like more speed, and up front, more maneuverability. Like I always knew that. However, I think listening to CJ Nelson, when we talked about podcasts, he's a guy, one of the best longboarders in the world. He always talks about how he, jams his on his big boards. He'll jam his fin up front, and he's just like it's like a skateboard, or you can turn more from higher towards the nose, like you can get up on the nose, but still it's like a holly. You can still kind of turn it. Anyway, just playing with stuff like that has been a lot of fun.
I started realizing that I rented a lot of boards this summer from traveling, and I started realizing right away with different fin setups, like, you can completely change your game.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was fun.
All right. Oh, me. I guess my surf goal was similar to my personal goal that I'll talk about as well, was to get out of my head, just surf, have fun. And also I talked about how I got a surf skateboard and how it would help with cut back motions.
How'd it all work out?
Well, I don't know if I can ever be cured of getting out of my head, but I definitely, I think I'm slowly stopping like the caring of it and enjoying being in the moment more and focusing on the moment rather than, oh gosh, people are looking and psyching myself out. There was one day I went to, there's a resort in the South Shore. Actually, I went a bunch of times this summer, but there was one specific day that I made mental note. I was surfing at this resort, basically.
That White Point?
White Point, okay. Yeah. And there's just like, it was just this perfect morning, and I had this whole beach to myself, and I was just having such a good time. It was before the family was up, so I was out there for about an hour and a half by myself, just really enjoying myself. And then halfway through it, I realized that everybody having breakfast is watching me, and it didn't throw me off. I didn't care. I was just having too much fun. So that was like a good moment for me to realize. So
nice.
It's working. I'm getting there.
How's a skateboard?
So I didn't get out on it as much. When you got a little kid, it's hard. The second I go on it, she wants to come like on her scooter or skateboard with me, and then all of a sudden it changes from me getting to work on anything and chasing after the 8-year-old.
How is it to operate?
It's awesome. Like it totally, like I can totally see, I've seen YouTube videos of people trying surf skates, and there's this YouTuber, social media guy, Cale Brock. He gives a lot of surf tips, and I heard about this tip from him. I always see him like in like streets, like dead end streets or parking lots, practicing and showing you the movement, how you like move with your whole, sort of like your whole upper body kind of just helps you get the momentum and he does it on the surf skate to help with practicing cutbacks, and I feel it. I mean, I haven't been able to translate that on a surfboard exactly because I think I ride too big. My boards are too big still. So to really, like sort of what you mentioned, but it definitely like it has improved my balance because I'll change my foot placement on my surfboard and instantly get that same kind of vibe from my surf skate and be able to move in a similar way. Not quite a cutback, but it's pretty cool. Yeah, surf skate, super fun. I've only been on it like 4 or 5 times for any length of time, but
cool.
Yeah.
Interesting observation. You said your goal is to get out of your head.
Yeah.
And then you said you went to White Point and you got in the zone.
Yeah.
And you were like halfway through your surf before you realized that there were probably people that could see you and were watching you and you didn't care.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if you can bypass the onset, you're fine. Which is an interesting observation. Like you didn't ramp up to being anxious.
No, well, it's because I had been surfing for about 45 minutes. Just
no, but that's what I mean. It's like you would have psyched yourself out. So, and I think it applies to anything and to anyone.
Yeah.
Work on the psych out part and the rest. Like you won't care because you'll be in the zone.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have gotten in the zone had you have psyched yourself out before you.
Yeah. Also, I'm going to move on if that's all right, guys.
Next, please.
Time for our personal goals. These were interesting. So Josh, your personal goal was you talked about your global health journey. You spoke on diet, mental health revamp, how you wanted to bring vitality back into your life or into your life more. You talked about well-being, and you mentioned like dropping some weight. And listener, I'll tell you that Josh has dropped weight.
I feel like I have achieved all the things I set out to do. Well, I worked on all of them. I don't think there's no top of the hill.
Right.
Not with this stuff.
There's no finish line.
Continuous.
But I will say, in terms of like mindset and being physically healthy and mentally healthy, I 100% put in the effort on the physical health. I was doing like we finished off our podcast. We were talking about yoga with Adrian.
Yep.
Then I set this thing for the summer, and I did yoga with Adrian. I would say every day from July until the end of September.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I missed. The only times I missed is if I was just plain exhausted or whatever. And then exercise, I kept up the same routine. I told you about my bike route out through Lawrencetown and loop around Porter's Lake, which is a place in... it's actually one of the beaches we surf at in Nova Scotia. And then there's a lake kind of on the back side of it that's half seawater, half lake water. And you can take a bike route from the beach and do a big loop. And it's easy to make it 30K, and you can tag on 12 more if you want to do 42, which is pretty easy to do. Yeah, so I did all that,
and it's super peaceful out there.
Yeah. And I would say on the exercise piece, I learned a bit about like probably finding the threshold of what's healthy there too, because like I set some hefty goals and I achieved them, but like I don't know, rest and all of that is just as important. So
I'm curious with keeping up that yoga practice. What was kind of the end result or the process? Like, how did you feel or things that you may have noticed?
So the biggest thing I was trying to work on, I guess, was energy, but then also like posture and like just from stress and things, like my back hurts sometimes, I get muscle tension and all this stuff. So I was really trying to like impact my posture, stand up straighter, all of those sorts of things. And quite honestly, it worked. Like a lot of the yoga moves are
David
really...
and I sit up.
No, it's like a struggle of every human based on our modern environment. We're always looking down. We're always crouched over
phones,
something. Like it's hard on you. And it was to the point that it was making me like physically just feel unwell, which was, I would say, impacting my mental state. And so I kind of took charge with it. I'm still working on it, but I feel a lot better. So like opened up my chest, my posture changed.
You said something that kind of sparked this in my mind. It's miraculous how like one little tiny change in your routine can affect you so much down the road, like a few months later. Like
the power, like consistency, like it seems like you're doing nothing, But if you do it every day,
Yep.
it's powerful. And I had this epiphany, I'm going on too long, but for those that obviously can't see where we're sitting, there's a bunch of plants in the room. And the plant that's in the window, at one point, the limbs had like fallen over and like creased, and they couldn't hold themselves up. And one of the limbs, you can see I'm propping one up right now, but there was another one that I was standing here having a coffee one day, and I was looking at it, it was flopped over, and I was like, man, and I held it up and it just like creased down again, and this, like, it weakened a point in the branch. And I didn't have anything, so I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and like stuck it in the soil and like laid the stem against it and walked away and didn't think any more about it. And I came back out of the bedroom, like, I don't know, 25 minutes to half an hour later. I was doing some work, and I came out, and the limb of the plant had actually stood back up and lifted off of the knife that I put in the pot. So it was just like, sometimes all you need a little support or a little bit of the right thing.
I like that.
And it's like,
There you go.
vitality comes back.
I like
and
it.
so that was like,
Cool.
in that moment, I was like, oh.
Oh.
Like sometimes you need some help, or sometimes you need some nourishment, or sometimes you need a break. Like,
Little push,
And
little
it doesn't have to be a
handhold.
massive thing.
and it doesn't have to be forceful. It's like,
No.
I wanted to change my health. That doesn't mean I have to go out and destroy myself with
Yeah.
exercise. It's like, how do you be physically healthy? Like, it's a global thing. It's not just
Well, it's funny because
get jacked.
you sort of challenged the three of us to a push-up challenge this summer, just for fun, to kind of make it, I don't know, hold yourself accountable, because we've all been sort of talking about physical, like getting better with our, not just our surfing, but just everything. And we were all like, you said 100 push-ups a day. We were all like, no.
Nobody was willing. Yeah.
And then we said 50, and you made like a spreadsheet, and I think I wrote in it once and then not again. So here's the money I owe you for that. You can have that.
I, not to brag about myself, but I destroyed that. I kept going. After you got, like, we finished July, and I sent out an invite. It was like, if you guys want to keep going, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, I still get an email every day.
Yeah, so do I. I'm taking.
My calendar's filled with Nova Kooks push-up challenge.
I put it out to like 2024.
It actually makes me cry every morning.
But
I'm kidding.
I'll say this.
I'm kidding.
Now that you know, like, routines have been reestablished, because summer's just so hard to hold on to routines, like, just with, like, you know, camping trips and family trips and stuff. I have begun.
Yeah. I'm not done with it. I'm taking a little break from it, and then
just
I want
to
to start it back up.
But just to relate to your plant, though, like, doing those push-ups has forced me to, like, go into a whole routine now that I do every day. So I don't just do the push-ups. I'm doing, like, you know, some crunches and some what are those things? Dips and planks. And just from doing the push-ups and stuff, like, I couldn't hold a plank for a minute without shaking. And that was, you know, I started doing this about, I'd say 8 weeks ago now. And now I can hold a plank for, I would shake, but I could probably do it for up to 5 minutes now. And 4 minutes.
It's crazy though.
Yeah.
Like 25 minutes for the plant.
Yeah.
Totally changed it. And all I told the plant was like, hey, I'm here for you if you need anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, okay, I had a break. Boom.
Yeah.
You're
But the
way
push-ups-
stronger than you think.
But the push-ups aren't, and, like, it's kind of like doing push-ups like this is sort of like everything. Like, you could use it with any exercise, flexibility, your pop-up with surfing. Like, I'm not doing 50 push-ups all at once. I'll
You
do
have the
like,
whole day.
Yeah, I'll do 15, and then I'll go work on a project, and then I'll come back and do 15 more, and then I'll have lunch, and then you know what I mean? So it's like, and it's miraculous how easy to do, like, 15 you can build yourself up to 15 push-ups pretty quick.
Well, that's the part that I took from it, was like, you set this little goal and then you just chip away at it. And it's like, you have the entire day to do, we chose 50 push-ups. And it's amazing how easy it is once you take the rigidity out of something.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I can do 2 right now while I'm doing this. I can do 5 more while I'm doing laundry. Oh, you know what? I'm going to take a break from I'm working at home right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a break from work and do 10.
Yeah.
And like next thing you know, it's like, oh, I did 50. Well, maybe I'll try for more.
Well,
Maybe I'll chuck some more in there.
What I'll start to do, we're going on a tangent, but I think this is great. I've taken inspiration from our friend Jeremy, who I remember back in the day, we'd be watching movies and all of a sudden he'd just be doing push-ups and sit-ups, and it's like, this isn't an enjoyable. I'm sitting here eating popcorn and you're like over there doing crunches, and he's like, I can't, I gotta move. And what I'll do now is like I'll be watching like TV with my wife and I'll be like, oh, I still got like 20 to do, and it's my gosh. And I'll like slither off the couch and just lay on the ground and then slowly chip away at them. And then
it's amazing how accountable to yourself you become, and that's the cool part. Like you don't want to let yourself down. It's not anybody else.
Well, I remember at the beginning of summer, I was in PEI in Rustico, staying at this awesome place, and you're sitting there and you're like, well, I've got, my wife's going to have a shower. That's going to take 5-10 minutes. I can whip off 20. Like, you can fit. My struggle is always, I'm an all or nothing guy typically.
Yeah.
It's like, I have to be like doing everything perfectly, or
you talk yourself out of it.
I can totally, you get that inner or the devil on your shoulder going, why bother if it's not, to the nth degree. So it's always been a battle just to chill out. You can pick away at something. It doesn't have to be 110. It can be, it can be 50.
Yeah. It's a project. I'm proud of this fact, so it's kind of bragging, but like after we finished July, I set a target because I think you and I both achieved like 1,400 push-ups in July or something like that.
Oh, you did do it. I didn't even look at the spreadsheet again.
14 or
July, I was 110%.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
To the point where my wife was like, oh my goodness, like, what are you doing? And I'm like,
look at this guy.
I'm like, I can do this. And it was funny because like, even like, it could have been like 1 a.m. and I'm never up that late. But like, let's say we were finishing up something. I'm like, I still got 20 left in me. And she was like, all right. But like, she was like, wow, good for you. Like, so.
Well, that's what happened to me. I was doing them, and then I was in the airport on a like 24-hour day traveling. And I looked at my wife. I was like, should I bang out some push-ups right here? And she's like, no. That'll be so embarrassing. And so I was like, fair. All right.
Yeah.
And then all or nothing. I bailed on it.
So I set a target for the summer, and I said, I'll be done when I reach 5,000. And so I did 5,000 push-ups by the first week of September. And then I kept going for a while. I'm at 6,000 right now. My goal is 10, but I'm taking a break.
It's amazing, eh?
But yeah, I got 5,000. I was like, that is the power of consistency.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it's nothing, it sounds like a lot, but it's nothing special. Literally all I did was show up and do some push-ups every day through the duration of the whole time I was awake.
You could have just as easily done 0.
Yeah, but
you did 5,000.
It just sounds whatever. It sounds like a lot, but my point is, that's what happens when you just show up every day.
Yeah,
and do something small.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a long.
time. I think it's an enjoyable conversation. I'm going to move to Charles though. Charles, your personal goal was the Money Point coastal hike and to leave the province and get to see some music. Well, you spoke earlier that one of your apples was Toronto. Who did you see in Toronto? Superchunk, right?
Yeah, so I saw Superchunk in Toronto, and I didn't make it to the Money Point hike this summer. The summer was kind of scorching a bit. So even like some, when I was in Ingonish, some just, hour, 2-hour hikes that I typically would do, I was just like too hot to do and just was spending more time in the water and all that stuff. So Money Point is still on the list.
Nice.
See, that's how you do it, Josh.
Bah.
That's like 2 minutes compared to your half hour.
That's what happens when you don't achieve your goal.
It's
like, no, I didn't. Just think about how short that answer would have been if so I was going to do all these push-ups and I didn't do any. Next.
Nice. All right. David, you said physical activity, exercise, consistency. Sounds like you did that with your push-ups.
Yeah.
You talked about running and biking on top of your surfing, and you talked about stretching, and you talked about yoga.
Yeah, so
How'd that
so we alluded to it, but definitely thanks to you guys and Josh for setting up the push-up challenge.
Not me, man.
Listen, I'm just, we're all in this together. The push-up challenge was awesome. Like, that was awesome. And seeing, like, building that strength, like, after a week, I was like, this is doing something. And again, chipping away, doing a little bit here.
Does that mean that
I
I have to split this with both of you then?
You take that $20 and buy yourself
Buy yourself some push-up gloves.
licorice twists or something.
I'm not buying licorice.
Anyway, so I love the push-up challenge. That was huge. I noticed strange things after, like, building up some strength of the push-up challenge. I noticed I could run stronger. And I know physically there's probably some links there, but I don't know. I felt like I could run faster and not feel as in agony as I usually do. And that showed up in, I did a triathlon each month.
But that's also because summer you had more time to sleep, I'm assuming. And
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, I don't know.
You really attribute it to...
Maybe.
I don't know.
I'll tell you, there was something about, I just felt like a deep sort of inner core strength.
Absolutely.
After doing those push-ups that I noticed physically in my enjoyment of the runs that I was doing. Like, so I did a triathlon each month. That was my goal. I'm going to do one triathlon each month. And when I look at the stats this year versus last year versus the years before COVID, my run was significantly better, and I didn't run anymore. Like, it wasn't my run training.
Was it your run at the end of July? Like, did you do the push-ups for the month of July and then had better runs in August?
Absolutely, yeah. So
Really?
I did a triathlon like third week July, and I was like, this is great. And then I did one in August. I was like, and then you could compare them towards other previous years. Way faster, and I didn't run any more. Like, my run training was any better.
Interesting.
And I can only attribute it to that. I ate the same. Like, I'm a weekend warrior type person in terms of diet and everything else, but I felt better, and I was enjoying the runs. I felt stronger and faster. I'm going to attribute it to push-ups.
Well, did you also do more stretching and more yoga at all, or?
I watched Yoga with Adrian, huge proponent of that. I think there was, and this is a little bit sort of my old pattern, I think I did a week and then it kind of trailed off. Mm-hmm. But the push-ups stayed.
Nice.
So I don't think I really achieved my flexibility goal, but everything else felt really strong. So,
are you still doing push-ups?
I am not currently doing push-ups, but it's been in my mind that it's something that I'd like to start up again.
Yeah.
I'm going to ramp it up again. I'll send the link. I'm taking a break too.
Cool.
I will say with the push-ups, I noticed surfing was like I was like pushing myself off the board. It was weird.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
How about you, Jared?
yeah. Thanks, Charles.
Next, please.
Just rolling us right along. Thanks, bud. Yeah, so mine was to get out of my head and don't let thoughts throw me anymore from doing activities. It's sort of like that similar, like, all or nothing. I like talk myself out of things. And the biggest thing, I think, was to let myself off the hook and just sort of relax during the summer. And I did a lot of relaxing, enjoyed the beach a lot. But as far as getting out of my head, I sort of spoke to that with my White Point experience surfing. And, that's kind of happening a lot more for me lately. It's just like, I'm going to do it anyway. Who cares what people say? Or I want to do this thing. I'm just going to go. I'm just going to go do it. And who cares? And it's been feeling pretty good to do that. But as far as exercise and stuff goes, because we were sort of speaking, we all sort of had that in our mind, doing sort of physical activity and stuff and letting ourselves off the hook. I've become pretty good at letting myself off the hook. I used to be similar to you, David, with the all or nothing. Like, I'm going to stretch every single day, or I'm going to try to do yoga every single day. And it's like, I got to do this every single day. And if I miss a day, well, then forget it. I've failed. And I'm no longer a yogi because I didn't do it today. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's totally what happens to me. And like I said, I started doing the push-ups, but it wasn't just the push-ups. I sort of started a whole new morning routine where, I wake up and I guzzle down 32 ounces of water. Like you hear people say, like that jumpstarts your metabolism and stuff. And I'm just trying to, experiment with taking care of my body with these tips that are out there. So I do the 2 guzzle the water and I've started journaling, doing this thing that I heard about called morning pages, which is you just write 3 pages. And it just sort of lets your brain, like all the crazy
stream of conscious, kind of whatever comes out.
It doesn't matter what you write. You can write lists. You can write whatever pops in your head. Like, oh, there's a fly over there. What the funny thing about flies, or like, and if you read, you're supposed to write it in a way that like you're not gonna reread it. No one's ever gonna read it. It's like sort of therapy in a way. Like, I've been finding it incredible. And you know what? If I miss a day, I let myself off the hook.
Good.
And
Good.
I write gratitude. I'll write lists of gratitude, things I'm thankful for. Often I'll write, things that are really on my mind. If I have like a song idea, because I've been writing music again, if I have a song idea, I'll like start throwing that down in there. And it's just a place to work through things. I know a lot of writers will like swear by morning pages. I think it was actually designed, the whole concept of it was sort of promoted to the writer world, but just for my mental health, it's been helping a lot.
Great.
And I've been letting myself off the hook when I miss it, and I've been letting myself off the hook if I don't drink 32 ounces of water in the morning.
Right.
Sometimes we have those days that we just don't feel like it, and that's okay. Sometimes I don't do all the push-ups in a day, and I don't care. It's fine. I'll do them tomorrow. And if I miss tomorrow, fine. I will do them the next day though, because I would probably give myself a hard time if I missed like too many days in a row. But like things happen. Like my daughter was sick. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like I had to take care of her. I couldn't like go and write 3 pages for half an hour away from family. So, but that's been really helpful for me. And speaking about stretching, one of my routines now is I've really, similar to you, I was never much of a stretcher. I had a couple stretches that I would do because I deal with some plantar fasciitis, and I just learned that if I don't do like heel drops or like walking into the wall with your foot kind of 45 degrees, I would like be a mess if I didn't do those things, but that would be it. That would be my only stretch. And Josh, you've run with me. You know that like I'll stand and watch you stretch and not do it. But I found this YouTube video of a lady. She stands next to a little canal, and it's really cool. A swan swims by her while she's doing this 8-minute stretch routine. And it's got cheesy music, but I'm all about the cheesy music. I could sing it to you right now, but it's I do it every day after my run. I go straight to the basement and like prop my phone up and I follow her stretch routine. And that alone is improving my flexibility. That alone, it's just a good stretching routine is incredible. And Josh and I see a similar osteopath, and Josh has said this to me before, but hearing it from this person,
Swan
like
lady.
it sticks more.
Swan lady brought it home.
She talked about how important it is to breathe while you're stretching, because your brain gets the fight or flight, and when you're doing a stretch, you're constricting your body and your brain immediately, like
sympathetic nervous system.
Yeah, and it like tightens it all up, and your stretch isn't working unless you're breathing. So you want to do nice breathing so that you relax those muscles so it's actually effective. Yeah. And don't rip through your stretch. You don't want to hurt. You're not building muscle, you're relaxing it. So you shouldn't feel like the burn.
If you
gentle.
make like a stretch can be intense, but if you intensify the stretch and then it's making you hold your breath and all of this stuff, you're doing a disservice to yourself, because the stretch, you're probably making it worse. That's just my opinion.
And again, 8 minutes.
It's just 8 minutes. And you know
8
what?
minutes.
It feels like 30 seconds.
Yeah, cool.
Sounds like we've done.
I think we all did pretty well.
Yeah,
Pretty
good
well.
summers all around.
Success.
It's been a good.
Snappers.
Josh.
Snappers.
Sharkadoo.
Sharkadoo.
Sharkadoodle snappers. All right.
Nova Kooks. Surf tips.
So let's move on to our new segment. This segment is where we give some surf tips for you beginners out there, or find surf tips that we've heard from the internet, and we sort of talk about it and sort of help each other by discussing it. I've put together what I believe are 5 good tips for beginner surfers when picking a board at the rental shop or surf shop that I wish that I had known sooner. I'll read them out one at a time, and you guys can chime in and let me know of any thoughts. The first one, for a beginner, I would say, start with a longboard or a foam board, because it is much easier. You don't have to work as hard.
Nope. Totally agree. And when I was getting my first board, I had a colleague at work that was emphasizing that for me. He was just like, you progress much more quickly.
Yeah. I think I ego tripped and went straight to a fun board and worked my butt off. I could do it, but I think I would have had more success if I had spent that first year with the longboard that I got a year later. But
out of the two, would you say foam board's even better?
Oh yeah, the foam board.
If you had a long foam board, perfect. You would just feel like a superhero.
Even like the first time I was on a foam board was when Jared had some friends visiting from Toronto, and I was just like amazed at how easy it was and how fun it was.
Yeah, but those were shorter too, though.
Like, they were like
there were 7 or 8. Yeah. All right, the second one. So that was surf tip 1. Start with a longboard or foam board. Number 2, use a flat rocker, a flatter board, and your rocker is basically sort of like, think of like there's a piece of wood right down the center of your surfboard, and the surf shaper will either make it kind of like a little bit more curved towards the nose or the tail, depending on like what the surfer enjoys or prefers. But if you're just a beginner, having it flatter, there's less resistance. And if you have more rocker, it's for bigger waves. More rocker helps you turning on the waves. And when you're just a beginner, you're just going perpendicular from the water, like the water that's breaking. You're just going perpendicular towards the beach. You don't need to worry about any of the fancy frills. Just something that's flat and will go straight.
Easy to paddle.
Yes.
Lots of float.
I support that. My torque is like that.
Yeah. And that's typically what happens with longboards is just naturally they're longer, so there's less rocker. Typically.
I should show you guys the board that I learned to surf on. It looks like a boomerang in terms of rocker.
I'd love to see it. Just send us a picture. We'll post it.
Honestly, I probably have a picture. Yeah. The rocker's insane. Anyway.
Yeah, send it to me and I'll post it.
Done.
And the third tip, we're halfway there, guys. More volume. You just sort of said this. More volume is good. Float. Work less. The more floatacious your board is, you can paddle faster. And you lose less speed on smaller waves because you're only going to be on smaller waves, beginner. So float. Get a boat. And stand up.
And probably the odds of catching and being caught by the wave are increased with a board with more float.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Totally.
So you're going to have more fun.
It's not as tippy. You'll just be able to
stable.
Yeah. You'll be able to stand up. If you've ever not surfed, but have done a stand up paddleboard, you probably are surprised that you can stand on it. Like it's like a floating dock. Yeah. It's the same thing. You just stand up.
And if you haven't surfed, it's hard enough to get out there anyway.
Yeah.
If you have a board that's 75% more likely to catch the wave and help you, why not go out and have fun?
That sounds great.
Yeah.
My fourth tip is don't get confused with the volume versus the length. A long board can also have a big rocker and not a lot of volume, which can suck for a beginner and it'll make it way too tippy. I experienced this in LA. There was our surf labor. He let me use his board, and his board had more rocker, and it was actually skinnier. And I struggled with it, but it was like a 11-foot board, but I had the hardest time surfing it because it was so tippy.
I think we tried the same board and I didn't like it at all.
No. The fifth one, which is important, Your weight, the conditions, and your experience are what matters when selecting your board. Have you ever wondered why some surfers bring their entire quiver of boards with them to the beach? It's because they want to look at the wave. They want to see what's right for that day. It's hard just to tell based on the weather apps and the surf forecast apps. In Nova Scotia, I'll go to the beach and there'll be some people that one guy shows up and there's like 4 boards on the roof of his car, and it's because you never know what the conditions are going to be like. So when you're selecting your board, consider, your weight, the conditions, what type of time you want to have on those waves.
Absolutely.
I hope that everybody enjoyed this new recurring segment to the show. I think it'll kind of keep the surf portion relevant, especially when we start talking more about like movies and music in some of our episodes. We'll sort of try to keep this in our episodes. And let's move on to the next section here. Charles, whether you like it or not, it is clear the fans have spoken. They love the segment where you ask us one of your questions.
Great.
I do have a few questions that were sent in, but we'll save those for some later episodes. And to start our second season, I say we give the people what they want. So without further babblings from me, it's that time again for the final question from Charles.
This is Charles.
Okay, this week's question. So this summer, I had wanted to travel and see some music. I really wanted to see the Chili Peppers in Toronto, and the following night, Duran Duran from the 80s was playing as well, so I thought that would have been a great back-to-back shows, but I couldn't do that for certain family issues. But I was in Cape Breton in September, and I got to see an 80s icon. Bryan Adams was playing while I was in Sydney, and I was just like, oh, well, Bryan Adams is playing in Sydney. What else am I going to do tonight? I was able to get a resale ticket. I was able to scope out the arena map and then find a seat that I could move to once I was in there. So I had a good seat for it. And this evening's question is a result of attending that concert. So my question is Bryan Adams underappreciated or taken for granted? Does he deserve an apology? And if so, would you like to apologize to him this evening?
An apology for what? So is that are you presuming that we have not appreciated him to his fullest and we therefore owe him an apology? Is that kind of?
Possibly. So the first part of the question, is he underappreciated or taken for granted?
Oh boy. Okay, so I saw Bryan Adams 3 years ago at the Metro Center.
Okay.
I grew up with Bryan Adams for all of the songs that we know, which are, I think, great pieces, not only of Canadian music, if you can call it that, but just that era. I think he did a great job. I was absolutely blown away by how, and I'm not the audiophile that you folks are, but I was blown away about how great he and his band sounded.
Okay.
I thought they were fantastic. Do I think he's underappreciated? I feel like he may have achieved the appropriate amount of appreciation, which I think is high and deservedly so.
Okay. No need for an apology.
I won't apologize
You're not taking
to
him for
Bryan
granted.
Adams. I'm not going to apologize to him.
And it sounds like you don't need to.
Exactly.
Because you're not taking him for granted.
I don't take him for granted.
I don't think I care about Bryan Adams enough to be able to answer the question, to be honest.
Do you think he's underappreciated or taken for granted?
No, I think that he has his audience. He has people enjoy Bryan Adams. There's songs that I enjoy of his. I think, like, just to make a reference though, my first real exposure to Bryan Adams, this might be embarrassing for me, but was it was MXPX covering Summer of '69. I didn't really realize at the time I wasn't. I just wasn't as interested in that style of music at the time. Be it my generation, the people I was hanging out with, the stuff I was being exposed to. But I don't. I think he's properly rated. He's still selling out shows, and when that song with the Spice Girl comes up, I sing along because maybe unpopular opinion, but I like that song.
That's not the one. And the only thing that looks good on me is you, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When that would come up on Much Music, I don't know, it would bring me joy. I'd be like, I love them. They're like in this like house.
Yep.
And I'm like, this is great.
That was a Spice Girl in that?
Yeah.
Sporty Spice, I believe, was in that one.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's what I got.
Okay.
I don't think I owe him an apology because I don't have any ill will, or it's not that I think anything less of someone that listens to him. It's just my experiences. It's
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, no apology.
So you all hit on some pretty important pieces that have helped to shape my answer. I don't think that he's underappreciated. So therefore, I guess I don't think we owe him an apology. And I think there's two reasons for that answer. One is I think that our group, the height of his success, we only had awareness of the tail end of it. So I don't think we saw him at the height of his career.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact he's still selling out shows is the people that knew him in the height of his career that are still going and are like, this guy is awesome. The other piece I would say is that my observation has been that Canadian artists typically don't get propelled the same way as like someone that moved to the core of LA and like drove it home. It's a bigger industry. There's more power there. And I've seen that happen with other Canadian artists where they're huge.
He was one of the early breakthroughs though
But like I find there's a cap unless you like make your way to LA. But he's super successful. Like I think now he has a lot of success in Europe, if I remember correctly. He's got a big audience over there. And plug for myself. I've been in his studio in Vancouver.
Nice.
Big studio. Like, and in a prominent place in Vancouver. So like he clearly has reached financial successes from his endeavors. So yeah, I think that he's gotten what he deserves and is a talented guy. Yeah.
Okay, so no need for an apology.
Yeah.
All right.
And I don't think you're going to apologize because isn't he your latest binge?
Well, as I was saying, I went to this show and I really enjoyed him. One of my first musical memories as a kid is enjoying Summer of '69 and Run to You and all that. So seeing him in person, and then he's playing all these hits, and I realized these are like 7 singles off one album from the '80s. Like,
oh yeah,
how that's a great album.
Reckless.
Reckless.
Let's.
Yeah, undeniable.
What's the movie he wrote the whole soundtrack for? Robin Hood?
That's what he had. Everything I Do It For You was the big hit off of that.
Yeah.
So he would have had a lot of success then and continued to have even more success over in Europe and kind of Asia, like playing stadiums, Wembley, Slane Castle in Ireland. So he's almost a bigger deal over there than he is. Well, he's, I think, appreciated in Canada. I think in America, he's kind of considered just, they remember him from the 80s and he can, I'm sure he can play theaters down there and whatnot.
Yeah.
But seeing him live and then seeing him, the band was great show. And then the amount of hits that he's had and the success that he's had worldwide, I feel like I may have taken him for granted.
Okay.
And Bryan Adams, he doesn't have to come to Cape Breton and Sydney to play a show, but he does. And the people love it.
That's fair.
So this evening, I would like to apologize to
That's where this is going.
Mr. Adams for taking him for granted. Please forgive me. I know not what I did.
That was
Nicely
you know
done,
what? That was a
Charles.
beautiful moment. That was,
Well, I mean,
that was a
maybe-
formal apology.
Maybe we all owe him one because we didn't realize how humble he was for being a global star and still coming and
Good
doing
for you,
shows
Charles.
like Cape Breton and stuff.
Very courageous.
Although
that was big. That was big for you.
Although some interesting fun facts about Bryan Adams. I don't know if you guys are familiar with All Music review website.
No.
Never heard of it.
If you like music and you want to read up on artists and like reviews of their album, it's a great resource. But he's the only artist that has ever asked to be removed from the All Music resource.
Right. Wasn't there something else that he was the only, wasn't there a James Corden thing? And he's got his own stuff happening right now, but he was the only guest that, what is it?
Carpool Karaoke.
That's
Did
right.
he turn it down?
Yeah, he's the only guest that walked off of the show, and it's because he was misinformed. It was a carpool karaoke for 80s musicians, not
Bryan Adams.
And he was told that it was for Bryan Adams. So he showed up, and then there were all these other 80s stars with like some one-hit wonders and stuff. And this kind of goes back to your talking about how the States
I think he's feeling a bit underappreciated and taken for granted in America, at least.
To your
That's
point.
fair.
He's
Pretty
kind of a
significant.
big deal.
Yeah. Maybe I too owe him an apology.
Maybe at the end of the season, if we,
Maybe we can
the
get him
Nova
on.
Kooks could all officially offer.
An apology to Bryan Adams.
I see this headed that way.
Yeah.
I'm imagining a letter.
Charles, great question. Proud of your courage to apologize. Awesome. I've been Jared Gates, your host.
I've been David Roger.
This is Charles.
Conveniently, still Josh.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Charles.
Thanks, Jared.
Thank you.
Adios.
Sharkadoodle-doo.
Sharkadoodle-doo.
Doodle-doo.
All right. Thanks. Thanks for listening to Nova Kooks. We hope you enjoyed our welcome back episode. Now go give us a follow on Instagram and keep your ears peeled for more upcoming episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks and be well.